After 2 days of trade talks in London, the US and China have struck a deal. China has agreed to guarantee rare earth exports, while the US will allow Chinese students to study stateside.
미국과 중국이 영국 런던에서 이틀간 무역 협상을 벌인 끝에 합의안을 마련했습니다. 중국은 희토류를 우선 공급하고 미국은 중국인 유학생을 허용하기로 했습니다. Okay, so they have struck a deal somewhat,
Yes.
maybe not complete, but there seems to be some exchange between the two countries. Tell us more.
Yes, they had 2 days of negotiations in London, of course, regarding the tariff war that is going on. They do seem to have made an agreement on some major issues. First is supplying the rare earth materials going from China to the United States. Rare earth materials, 희토류. It's a very important thing for chips and any technology that you're making.
Right.
So that is the concession China made. But on the U.S. side, they agreed to allow Chinese students to study in the United States.
Yeah.
We've been talking about visas, right? 학생 비자에 대한 논란 많았죠, 미국에서.
That's right. And this was a big issue with Harvard.
Yes.
Because they have been kind of fighting with Trump. And Trump was like, well, you won't get any international students. And that means also, which included a bulk of the students were Chinese, international students. So that was interesting how that exchange went.
Yes, indeed. So we'll see where this goes forward. One thing, of course, is semiconductor exports. 반도체 수출. This affects, of course, America and China, but this indirectly also affects Korea.
Of course, I would imagine.
Right. Korea makes these semiconductors, but because of these kind of regulations, some of them they're not allowed to sell to China.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Even though they're not directed in this. So we haven't got any concrete numbers, but it does seem like they may have made an agreement based on semiconductors as well.
I hope so. And it's so interesting because of what's been going on with these trade tariffs and this trade war. It just goes to show how we're so connected and that it's not just one country, but it affects a number of other countries.
Yes.
In some indirect or direct way.
Right. Everything is
It's
connected.
all connected.
You know, you can't just take out one thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the Jenga tower?
Yeah, the Jenga tower.
You take out one block and it all falls apart.
That's right.
So you have to be very careful when you're doing these things. Yeah.
Good analogy. So Trump mentioned something on his account, Truth Social, regarding tariffs. What did he say?
Yeah, he was talking about the percentages.
Oh.
So now he's saying that the U.S. applies a 55% tariff on China. If you remember, the numbers got very high.
Well, 145.
Yeah, 145. And then after the first trade agreement, it went down to 115.
Right.
115%까지 내렸는데 이제 55%까지 내렸으니까
Okay.
점점 좋아지는 거죠.
Okay, well, thank goodness.
Yeah, and there's still also a 10% that China puts on the U.S.
Okay.
So there are still tariffs. 관세 아직은 있지만 it's a lot lower than it was before.
And we shall see, because there's a break, right? Isn't it July? Where we'll see if this, how the tariff will be structured at that time.
Yes. So Trump mentioned possibly extending the tariff suspension to July. It ends on July 8th.
Yeah.
And maybe extending it further.
Yeah.
But he did say we may not need the extension.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
we may
that's
be able
good.
to get something done before then.
Okay, well, I hope they can, because it'll surely help Korea
Yes,
too,
yes.
right?
He said
We
they're
need
talking
know.
to Korea and many other countries.
Wonderful. Okay, so strike a deal, and we've talked about this many times. But 협의를 보다, right? And of course, maybe it's not a full deal,
Yeah.
right?
At least
it is
partial.
Partial deal. Okay, we'll take
부분적으로
it.
했죠.
Yeah,
네.
we'll take it. And then this expression, study stateside. So it will allow Chinese students to study stateside. 뭐 여러분 study 공부하다. We all know what that is. But this word stateside is interesting. So it's state, United States of America, 그 state고요. But stateside, it's one word. What does this mean?
It means in the United States. This is a phrase Americans, people from the United States of America, will say to say they're going back to the U.S. So American military, 미군, say, oh, I was stationed abroad. Now I'm going stateside.
Yes.
Meaning I'm going back to the United States.
Right. So usually a lot of expats or soldiers who are in other countries, when they talk about going back, they actually say going stateside.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not something, if you're living in America, it's not an expression that we would use.
맞아, 미국에서 많이 쓰진 않는데.
않죠.
Yeah.
네. 근데 특히 한국에서 외국인들, 미국 친구들을 보면은 항상 stateside 이렇게 많이 써요.
Yeah. For example, it's been 3 years, 2 years, 3 years since I've been stateside.
Oh.
What about you? How many years has it been?
It's been about 5 or 6 years.
Since you've been stateside?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I do want to go back and see my friends.
Yes.
Okay, well, so this is good news. Thank you, Cam. Let me read that again. After 2 days of trade talks in London, the U.S. and China have struck a deal. China has agreed to guarantee rare earth exports while the U.S. will allow Chinese students to study stateside.